Hello everyone, welcome to back my channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before starting the video, please go ahead and hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. General Hospital has made it pretty clear that it intends to officially reunite Lucky Spencer and Elizabeth Weber, but the show has now thrown an almost insurmountable obstacle in their way. Even before Lucky John Tahan Jackson arrived back in Port Charles late last summer, we knew what was coming, as his Liz Dream and Jen Sidwell's Carlo Rota African prison was a pretty heavy anvil being beaten over our heads. Although it's been slow going since then, things are speeding up with Lucky moving in with Elizabeth Rebecca Herbst. The problem is, he is not the man she thinks he is, and we don't even understand what is going through his head. Lucky is keeping a massive secret he doesn't have to keep. When Elizabeth learns the truth, how can she even forgive him? Who is Christina Corinthos Davis Kate Mancy to Lucky that he thinks he has to protect her from her own stupid and insane choices? She is his boss at a bar, and they barely knew one another before he returned to town, mainly because Christina was born when he was already an adult. Lucky's first instinct was to protect Christina after he first saw the crash and knew what she had done, but then became angry when he realized Elizabeth was one of his victims. When it was just Rick Hurst, what Christina did seemed to be okay with him. Then, for some unknown reason, Christina's whining convinced him not to say anything the next day. Elizabeth has learned to trust Lucky again and thinks he would never keep secrets from her or lie to her, but now he is protecting the woman who nearly got her killed. Rick is also keeping Christina's secret, but for his own selfish reasons, as he helps Ava Maura West extort money out of Alexis Nancy Lee Grant, A. However, Liz is used to this kind of behavior from Rick. She has also not fallen back in love with him as she has with Lucky. Too bad he is lying to her every day while protecting someone who doesn't deserve to be protected. How can Liz ever truly be with him again? Few couples in General Hospital history have stirred as much emotion, heartbreak, and enduring loyalty as Lucky Spencer and Elizabeth Weber. From their early days as Port Charles teenagers navigating trauma and first love, to their countless reunions and devastating breakups, they've written one of the soap's most iconic love stories. But as much as viewers may long for a rekindling of their romance, the truth is that Lucky and Elizabeth can never be together again, at least not in any meaningful or lasting way. Time, trauma, betrayal, and growth have all played roles in reshaping who they are. While nostalgia might tempt fans into believing that these two soulmates could find their way back to each other, the reality of their history, and their evolution, makes that nearly impossible. First love doesn't last forever. Lucky and Elizabeth's love story began with tragedy and tenderness. After Elizabeth was sexually assaulted as a teenager, Lucky became her rock. Their bond was forged in pain, but it quickly grew into an epic romance that captivated viewers. They were young, idealistic, and full of hope, embodying the kind of pure love that many fans still hold sacred. But first loves, even the intense, soap-worthy ones, rarely last forever. The foundation of their love was built in a time that no longer exists, not just in the world of General Hospital, but in their personal lives. They've both endured so many changes since those early years that the versions of themselves that fell in love are long gone. And sometimes, when something is that precious and pure, trying to recreate it in adulthood only tarnishes what once was. Trust shattered beyond repair. Trust has been broken between Lucky and Elizabeth more times than most couples could survive. From Elizabeth's affair with Jason Morgan to Lucky's pill addiction and emotional absence, the wounds run deep. Arguably the biggest blow came when Elizabeth slept with Lucky's own brother, Nicholas Cassadine, a betrayal that devastated Lucky and forever altered their dynamic. Some might argue that soap characters are forever forgiving, and in many cases, that's true. But not here. That particular betrayal didn't just damage their relationship, it broke the very core of what made them work. It turned soulmates into strangers. Even if they could move past the pain, there would always be an invisible wall between them. The ghost of that betrayal would haunt every conversation, every touch, every attempt to rebuild. They've grown into different people. Another reason Lucky and Elizabeth can never be together again is simply that they've grown into entirely different people. Lucky, molded by his time as a Spencer, has always struggled with a restless spirit. He's been a cop, a wanderer, a father, and a man constantly at war with his past and identity. When he left Port Charles for good, it wasn't out of malice or abandonment, it was because he no longer fit into the mold he once did. He was searching for something he couldn't find in Elizabeth or in Port Charles. Elizabeth, on the other hand, has become deeply rooted in the very town Lucky fled. She's built a life, raised children, faced loss, battled mental health struggles, and found purpose in her work and motherhood. She's endured without him, learned to stand on her own, and forged ahead through every storm. She is no longer the girl who looked to Lucky for protection or partnership, she's the woman who learned how to save herself. This divergence isn't a failure, it's growth. And sometimes growth takes people in different directions. Bringing them back together would require undoing everything they've become, and that's not love, that's regression. Their story has already ended. One of the hardest truths for longtime GH fans to accept is that Lucky and Elizabeth's story has already ended. It didn't end with a final kiss or a dramatic farewell, but in quiet heartbreak and prolonged absence. It ended the way many real-life love stories do, with distance, silence, and the realization that love alone isn't always enough. Soap operas often resurrect past romances, but not all deserve a second, or third, chapter. Some stories are most powerful in memory, in the echoes of what once was. Lucky and Elizabeth's love was a beautiful, broken thing. Trying to revive it now, after everything, would feel more like fan service than authentic storytelling. Elizabeth has moved forward with new relationships, new challenges, and new understandings of who she is. Lucky, though mostly off-screen, has been portrayed as living a life outside of Port Charles, unmoored and untethered. To bring them back together would require not only reshaping current stories but also forcing characters into outdated roles that no longer suit them. It would undermine Elizabeth's journey. Elizabeth's evolution has been a centerpiece of General Hospital for over 2 decades. She's survived loss after loss, including the deaths of her beloved husband Franco and her parents' betrayal. Through it all, she has become one of the show's most resilient and complex characters. To bring her back to Lucky would feel like a step backward. It would reduce her journey to a cycle of romantic nostalgia rather than honoring the strength she's found in herself. She deserves a relationship that reflects who she is now, not who she was at 17. A reunion with Lucky would inevitably be colored by the past. She'd no longer be with someone who meets her in the present, but with someone who constantly reminds her of the girl she used to be. That's not empowerment, it's entrapment. And Elizabeth has earned more than that. The fans deserve better. Soap fans are smart. They remember every detail, every betrayal, every tear-filled monologue. They've invested years into these characters, and they want stories that feel earned and true. A Lucky and Elizabeth reunion may sound romantic on paper, but it would ultimately ring hollow. Why? Because it ignores everything that's happened since their last goodbye. It would erase character development for the sake of sentimentality. And fans deserve better than that. They deserve stories that move forward, not ones that get stuck in the past. There's a reason Lucky and Elizabeth's early love story is so cherished, it felt real. It resonated because it captured the intensity of young love, the power of healing, and the tragedy of loss. Trying to recreate that magic in the present would only highlight how far they've drifted from it. Closure, not reunion. If General Hospital ever chooses to bring Lucky Spencer back, the most powerful story they could tell wouldn't be a romantic reunion, it would be closure. A meaningful, heartfelt goodbye that acknowledges their history, forgives the pain, and frees them both to move on. Imagine Lucky returning for a short arc, maybe for a significant event, Elizabeth's wedding, a child's milestone, or even Luke's funeral. A chance for them to reflect on their past, admit what they meant to each other, and recognize that love can exist without needing to be acted upon. That would be a far more honest and impactful story than trying to recapture something that no longer fits. Let them part as friends, as co-parents, as people who once loved each other deeply but now walk separate paths. That's real. That's powerful. And that's the kind of storytelling General Hospital thrives on when it dares to be authentic. In conclusion, Lucky and Elizabeth will always hold a special place in General Hospital history. Their story was unforgettable, their chemistry electric, and their bond unshakable, for a time. But love doesn't always last forever, and some stories are meant to end. Bringing them back together now would not only diminish their growth but also dishonor the painful, beautiful journey that brought them to where they are. Some chapters are better left closed. And for Lucky and Elizabeth, that chapter has already been written, with ink that doesn't fade, but no longer needs to be rewritten. Thanks for watching this video and please subscribe our GH News 24 YouTube channel for more update news.